Good evening and welcome to the SVG-TV news for Thursday, November 25th. With the details, I'm Khalil Kato. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves is appealing to the Christian leaders across St. Vincent and the Grenadines to drop the unnecessary fight and work together with the government in the fight against the spread of COVID-19. Speaking on NBC Radio, Prime Minister Gonsalves said he does not have anything against Christian leaders. However, he is asking that they think of the community.
It begins with me. When I say me, I, me. But it doesn't end with you. The commandment didn't say, love thyself, It said, love thy neighbor as you love thyself. Eh? So you have to love your neighbor. That's where the injunction is, as you love yourself.
As you love yourself.
Eh? Not love thyself. And I'm asking you, please, drop this unnecessary fight. I want to say this. I hold, generally speaking, the Christian community, the Christian leadership in very high regard. And I look to them on many, many issues for guidance. But you have, wherever you're providing leadership, including in the Christian church, how this is provided.
Several Christian leaders are against the government's vaccination policy, and a letter was sent to the Prime Minister about the SR&O number 28 of 2021, which came into effect last Friday, where certain workers are required to take a COVID-19 vaccine in order to keep their job. Speaking at a news conference hosted by the SVG Teachers Union on Monday, Reverend Kelron Harry, Superintendent of the Church of the Nazarene of the Windward Islands and pastor of the Arnesvale Nazarene Church, says that the vaccination policy is a violation of the people's conscience. And the Prime Minister Gonsalves yesterday said that what the government has in the regulation is perfectly justifiable on any proper reading of the scripture and any proper analysis of conscience.
It's about me. It's about me in communion with others, including our God, who has given certain instructions. Yeah? He's not a selfish God, Hey, Johnny P?
Yes, of course not.
Yeah?
Of course not, Prime Minister.
So I make that plea. And what I certainly don't want is for persons who have a gripe against this or that but the pastor to take it out on them, because I replied firmly to what I considered as a mistaken position in several respects by the coalition of churches.
Prime Minister further added that there are some problems with some religious groups whose doctrine does not just opposes vaccinations, but also the testing of workers. He said pastors need to be reasonable.
They feel that they're prophets or they're apostles and the like, and who invoke the name of Paul, servant of the Lord called to be an apostle. But I always remember about Paul, Johnny P., after his conversion on the road to Damascus. When he was called. And in order to get validation, he was advised by God to go to Jerusalem to meet the disciples of Christ. Again, it shows that we have to act together in communities and in communion with God.
23 positive COVID-19 cases were reported from 161 samples collected on Tuesday, resulting in a positivity rate of 14.3%, and 10 positive results from rapid antigen tests were reported from flu clinics. There are currently 9 patients admitted for COVID-19 at the Argyle Isolation Facility, all of which are unvaccinated. 9 patients are also admitted to the COVID-19 ward at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital. 7 of these are unvaccinated and 2 are fully vaccinated. No deaths were recorded over the reporting period, with 16 new recoveries. 488 cases are currently active and 74 persons with COVID-19 have died. 5,469 cases of COVID-19, along with 4,907 recoveries, have been recorded in St. Vincent and the Grenadines since March 2020. Members of the opposition New Democratic Party continue to mourn the passing of the party founder, the Right Honourable Sir James Fitzalan Mitchell, who passed away on Tuesday at the age of 90. Sir James was the country's second Prime Minister and served in this capacity from 1984 to 2000. He also served as Premier from 1972 to 1974. During the NDP New Times radio program, opposition MP for the Southern Grenadines, Terence Oliver, said Sir James Mitchell was his mentor as he was ushered into politics by his hands.
I remember I was on a break from the University of the West Indies, a semester break, and while on the island of Canoan, I think they were having a dispute there. Someone came to me and said that Sir James wanted to see me. Of course, I became very nervous and wanted to know why would a Prime Minister, this man who I've been hearing so much about and so much good news about, wanted to see me. And it was about representing the islands of the Southern Grenadines in the upcoming election, because he said everywhere he went, people were saying this is the person that you need to get. And from that time, Sir James was a mentor to me.
Opposition MP of West Kingstown, Daniel Cummings, says he remembers the late Sir James as the leader who helped St. Vincent and the Grenadines to recognize the value of agriculture.
Called junta government. I was a student at the technical college as one of the very first, in the very first batch. And what strikes me then about Sir James was how he used his training as an agronomist, who helped St. Vincent and the Grenadines recognize the value of agriculture and to go back to the land. Many persons criticize the attempts to encourage people to use what we grow and to restrict the importation of unworthy substitutes. These are tough decisions, but that was the nature of the man, doing what is best for our country.
Meanwhile, opposition MP of Central Kingstown, Major Sinclair Leacock, says Sir James has been the most successful transformational leader of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
He was the founder of the nation. That honor goes to RMK2. But he can claim that it was him who properly translated this nation's independence, and successfully so, between the age of 84 to 2000. I speak about him as a transformational leader in the context of the great work he did through his land reform project of giving land to the landless and creating a new middle class in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, largely through those who tilled the land. He was also significantly an educational transformational leader when he made that bold decision to acquire what is now referred to as the Michael lands to build the community college, and again created more mobility for another group of Vincentians to middle class status in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
The Caribbean Development Bank, the CDB, says it is saddened to learn of the passing of the former Prime Minister. The bank said Sir James was a distinguished statesman who dedicated his life to building a nation and forming institutions of social and economic progress, noting that he was instrumental in establishing St. Vincent and the Grenadines as a nation-state. The CDB extends condolences to his family as well as the government and people of SVG. Today, the Ministry of Agriculture received two 30 by 60 feet greenhouse structures which were handed over to two farmers. The greenhouse structures were donated through a $25,000 project by the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture, IICA. Speaking at a brief handing over ceremony, IICA representative in SVG, Michael Dalton, said that with the impact that the volcanic eruptions had on the vegetable subsector in the northern and southern parts of the country, the organization came up with ways in which they can assist with vegetable production in these areas.
We therefore developed a project that catered for the acquisition of two greenhouse structures, 30 feet by 60 feet. That is the standard size of greenhouses that we have in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And also for pieces of equipment to go to the Ministry of Agriculture. As we are here at Dumbarton dealing specifically with the greenhouse structures, I will keep my comments to that as we will be going on to Montreal later on. But the two greenhouse structures were basically produced, funded to support initiatives for vegetable production. And early on, we had those discussions with the Ministry of Agriculture as to how those greenhouses would be allocated. And I'm very happy this morning that the allocation is actually to the private sector and to the Pineapple Growers Association of North Leeward, as well as to this farmer, this very young farmer from the South Central Windward area.
Dalton encouraged the recipients of the greenhouses to put them to good use.
The allocation is actually to the private sector and to the Pineapple Growers Association of North Leeward, as well as to this farmer, this very young farmer from the South Central Windward area. I just want to advise you to put these greenhouses to good use. That is the best you can do for me. I want to also indicate to you that we are here for support. We are hoping that the project will be integrated, both the greenhouse structures along with the supply of seeds from the ministry that were received through IICA, that both of these initiatives will be somehow integrated to help to support the work that you are doing to rebuild vegetable production in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. All right? The project itself was valued at just $25,000 overall. We allocated most of those monies to the purchase of the greenhouses and a small amount also, $10,000 or so, if you consider that small, to the purchase of some equipment for the ministry to support its drive to produce vegetable seedlings from its nursery.
Dalton also used the opportunity to express thanks to all the organizations who made the donation possible.
Express thanks. Thanks first of all to my own Director General for the great support that he would have provided to the delegation in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and also to my immediate supervisor, the representative for the ECS, Greg Rollins, to support the development of this project and to support its implementation over the following weeks. And I want to also express my thanks to the Ministry of Agriculture, and particularly the Minister, Permanent Secretary, Chief Agricultural Officer, Rohan McDonald at Propagation, and Mr. Marcus Richards, for the efforts that they would have put into to facilitate the implementation of the project up to this point. Right? I also want to express my thanks to Koroma Brown, who would have stored the greenhouse structures for us up to this point.
One act of violence is too much, so says President of the National Council of Women, Beverly Richards, who is calling on citizens to speak up and speak out against domestic violence and other forms of violence. Richards' appeal comes in observance of International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women under the theme Orange to the World, End Violence Against Women Now.
Support systems out there. You can call upon a neighbor, a trusted neighbor, or somebody within the community you can speak to. It is very important that you speak up and you speak out. Many times we do not know what is happening within the home until the physical signs come out. There may be a sign of depression, you may look disturbed. Many women come out because there are some physical signs that they have been abused. And so we will not know until these signs are being shown. So we are asking the women, whatever it is, one, act of abuse is too much. So at that moment, you start speaking up and you speak out against it.
Violence against women and girls is one of the most widespread, persistent, and devastating human rights violations in our world today, and remains largely unreported due to the impunity, silence, stigma, and shame surrounding it. Richards is appealing to community leaders and religious leaders to re-examine their roles and make concerted efforts to speak to their followers on gender-based violence.
Become an active part of the solution to the rise in violence against women. The government, the legal department should enforce penalties and vigilance. The communities and the families must play their part in eliminating this scourge. We are encouraging victims of abuse, physical, psychological, or whatever forms, to speak up and speak out. Call on our healthcare workers and our police officers into perspective to help us, as you are the first responders.
Richards is also appealing to everyone to be their neighbor's keeper and report every act of violence that they may witness in their community.
Persons know, if you are in a community and you notice that somebody within that community is being affected, is being abused, you need to speak out, talk about it, share it with somebody. There is a song that says about mind your own business, mind your funky business. But I would beg to differ from this, because today is not the day that we mind our own business. It is very important that we be our brothers and our sisters' keepers. Also, we have a lot of men out there who are anti-abusers. They do not like the abuse, they do not abuse, and they do not like the abuse. Those are strong men, and we are asking them also for their support to come out and support persons who have been abused and ask the abusers. We need to have programs where the abusers will stop their abuse.
The International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women will mark the launch of the Unite to End Violence Against Women campaign from November 25th to December 10th, an initiative of 16 days of activism concluding on the day that commemorates International Human Rights Day, November 10th. Sorry, that should be December 10th. A festival of lights, hope in the darkness. This is what the National Nine Mornings Committee is hoping to achieve with the staging of this year's festival, which will be much different than previous years in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Chair of the committee, Orande Bomani Charles, told SVG-TV News that the committee is changing the format of the cultural festival to promote health and safety for all.
All right, so this year's Nine Mornings Festival will be changed in terms of its format, the way we are presenting it this year. Through the lens of health and safety. So we are creating safe spaces where the cultural features of the festival will be presented. Normally the main stage would be at Heritage Square, but for obvious reasons we cannot host it in that space this year. So we are moving to the Victoria Park, which would provide all of the safety and protocol controls that would allow us to stage the festival in a safe way. We are also providing persons who may not be able to attend, persons who are living in the diaspora, the opportunity to view via streaming platforms.
Deputy Chair of the committee, Lennox Bowman, says they are hoping to have at least one event on the leeward and one on the windward sides of the island, and possibly one in the Grenadines, as they are seeking to enhance the festival with all health protocols being followed.
What we're trying to do is to see if we can at least have an event on one side of the country, the windward side, and one on the leeward side as well, maybe in the Grenadines too. But as you would appreciate, we would have to ensure that whatever venue is used is able to accommodate and facilitate the health and security concerns. We are now in the process of trying to talk to some of the major organizers in those areas to see if any would be interested in doing such. Apart from that, however, if those don't materialize, the program that we're having at Victoria Park is going to be just much more than Kingston. It is going to be national throughout the country, in that some of the better artists from these areas are going to be asked to perform in Kingston. So for the viewing public, they would be entertained by the best of what happens in St. Vincent at 9 mornings, whether it is in Stubbs, Richland Park, Rose Hall, wherever. So all of the best talent would put at Victoria Park and stream live. So the actual quality of the show should also be enhanced.
The 9 Mornings Committee is encouraging persons interested in attending this year's festival, which is to be held under COVID-19 guidelines, to get their QR codes to make entrance easier at the main venue, the Victoria Park.
So we are working with the Ministry of Health on this, and the protocols for there would be the usual protocols for vaccinated events. Everybody attending must be vaccinated, and obviously everybody is encouraged to wear masks and social distancing. We are lucky that we have the space to accommodate most of that, and any other protocols which may exist at the time, we will be observing those protocols. So people would most likely have to turn up we are also pushing people and encouraging people to get their QR codes. They can turn up at Victoria Park with your QR code, which makes it very easy, your QR code and your identification card. Outside of the QR code, if you haven't got the QR code, it doesn't mean you can't come. You could walk with your certificate and your vaccination card, and we will try our best to accommodate, because we would like to ensure that people who are vaccinated and would like to come to 9 mornings get an opportunity to come to 9 mornings. But persons too have to help us and help the process by trying the best to, if you're vaccinated, to get your QR code.
The committee chair is hoping to create an interactive virtual platform to engage the younger population, noting that this may be the year for the young people to be more involved in the unique festival.
Programming will feature we will add some new features to the programming this year in terms of the cultural packages that are presented. And we are trying to innovate, as I said, in terms of how we involve the wider community in the festival. But we are working very closely with the Ministry of Health to, as it is an active and ongoing consultation to see, as the time approaches, what we can do to continue to include our younger population. Some of the programming will include like the Bring a Song and Come competition, which is usually a feature that attracts a lot of young performers. And so we are hoping to create that interactive virtual platform for young people.
And this year might be the year for young people to become more involved than ever, in terms of they can't all be on stage, but we can have a lot of nice, for example, as you spoke, a little TikTok videos and so on, that could be really creative and generate a kind of an interest that can really lift the 9 mornings to another level.
Meanwhile, the community Christmas lighting competition may have a different look this year. So says the chair of the National 9 Mornings Committee, noting that several communities have already shown interest and they are encouraging more communities to get on board with the competition.
Also feature the popular Christmas lighting competition in the communities. We are seeking to add some innovations this year to increase and encourage persons to light their homes, businesses, community squares. The theme is a festival of lights, hope in a darkened world. So we'll be encouraging more Christmas lighting throughout the communities. Of course, doing it again, considering the health and safety, we'll be discouraging large gatherings. So the usual street concerts in some of the communities would be curtailed this year as well.
Charles is hoping Vincentians can feel the Christmas spirit this year as they get ready to launch a new initiative, the String of Lights campaign.
Well, communities have already indicated their intention to light up their communities, and usually persons can start visiting communities from the 15th, around there about the 15th of December, including the botanical gardens for the 9 nights of light festival that takes place there as well. We're encouraging persons to light their homes. We are intending to launch very soon a string of lights campaign where we're trying to see if we can get at least one string of lights on every house in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And we're hoping that persons will really feel the spirit of Christmas this year and every community would be lighted.
As the Christmas spirit builds, Charles is encouraging everyone to remain vigilant, noting that we are still in a pandemic.
Well, we would like to remind persons that 9 mornings this year would be held through the lens of health and safety, and we're asking persons to remain vigilant and stay safe, and we'll be doing our best to stage the festival with that as the top of our priority.
With the aim of raising $100,000, Commanding Officer of the Salvation Army, Major Ernest Gachelin, is appealing to Vincentians to support the Salvation Army Christmas Kettle Appeal. In an interview with SVG-TV News, Major Gachelin said the Kettle Appeal thus far has been going very slowly.
It's a little bit slow, but we give God praise because we just started just a week ago, so we're hoping that it will pick up next week or next month. Well, as I said from the beginning, we looking to see if we could get at least 100,000, to see what we can do. And that's what it is. Well, some days we get enough, and some days we don't get enough either. But that's the way it is. We hope that it will change. Because if we don't have enough to put enough workers, so we wouldn't be able to reach our goals.
The funds from the Christmas Kettle Appeal, which began on Friday, November 12th, are to finance the programs for the less fortunate. Major Gachelin further reminded persons of the Kettle locations where they can make their donations.
Yes, I just want to encourage the people out there to support this. This is a very important matter. So continue to support the Salvation Army because it is a worthy cause, and we have a port by Water Authority. It is already, nobody is there, but it is at the place. So if you go to pay your bills, and you can drop your donation in it, envelope or cash, we will get it. And we also at a People's Pharmacy, Corey's Pharmacy. We at also Singer, Court, Massey, and also we are at a Sunrise Supermarket.
The Kettle Appeal will conclude at the end of December. However, the Salvation Army Commanding Officer said persons who are still willing to assist can come to the office in Kingstown.
All those locations I mentioned, if you don't feel comfortable with dropping your envelopes or cash, you could drop it at the headquarters too. So we will be able to receive it. And let's continue to remain safe. Let's continue to remain safe, use the protocols that are set for us, and let's keep alive, and let's trust God, continue to serve God, those who have not serving God as yet, and it's time that we should give our lives to Christ, serve Him, and knowing that He is the only hope for us at this moment. And may God continue to bless St. Vincent and the Grenadines.